guys? Welcome back to episode 239 of the podcast. Today, I have James Wang, the head of tokens, which is a really cool title, of Amun on the show. James, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, Brandon?
Fantastic. How do you pronounce it? Amon?
I call it a moon, but everyone has a different
Amun?
take.
Oh, okay. Let's
It
go
is
with
the
Amun. That sounds cool. To the moon,
is the
Amun.
king of gods of ancient Egypt.
Oh, well, perfect. We're going to use that name then. That's fantastic. James, tell me a bit about yourself before we jump in and start talking about a moon. I'm sure people are very interested in what your background's like, what you did before this. How did you find yourself all mixed up in this world of crypto and blockchain?
I've always just loved tech in general. I started off as a gamer. I built a PC when I was like in high school, and I just loved computer graphics, computer games. Every kid did. I had no goal in sight, but I kind of have a bit of a technology addictive personality, and I found myself just obsessing over graphics cards, and that led me down to kind of like obsessing over this company called Nvidia. This is early like 2000. So back
Hmm.
then, Nvidia wasn't like the biggest semiconductor company in the world. It wasn't always that hot. It was among a dozen companies doing stuff at the time. But um, yeah, I basically became obsessed with GPUs. Eventually went to work at Nvidia. So I grew up in Australia and moved to Silicon Valley to work for them, which was kind of like a dream job at the time. My first job was literally to test graphics cards, to drag race graphics cards, and to play early release games on them. I literally played Crisis while it was in beta on a GPU that wasn't even released yet at the time, the G80. So it's just like, couldn't have asked for a better job. Worked at Nvidia for 8.5 years. Saw like how the company built out its gaming initiative, but got interested in kind of like tech very broadly around 2015. Wanted to try my hand at kind of the investing side, so I joined ARK Invest. Kathy Wood's very, very influential and important asset management firm. At the time, once again, NVIDIA ARK was completely unknown by the community there. We really took a few years to build out the brand, but it kind of exploded in the scene around 2018. It's been a fantastic ride. But the last couple of years, I think the thing that's really, really changed or like that's made the biggest difference from kind of theory to applied is crypto. And I became seized with the idea roughly around this kind of turn of 2021. Um, I was almost going to take a job in AI. I worked there for a brief period, but I decided, I really need to be in crypto. So I literally just decided to quit everything, do nothing, and just study crypto. And a few months later, I joined Amun. They were doing some very cool stuff, and the founders were fantastic people. I figured I can learn faster with a team. So we're based we have offices in Switzerland and New York, and I think it's a great platform.
Having a background with graphics cards, do you ever take a shot at mining crypto ever in the past?
No, it's funny. All my friends kind of did, but I didn't. You see, like
Hmm.
when crypto mining was happening, it was maybe around kind of like 2010 to 2000, 13 era. That kind of thing was popular, or with people with like at least retail PCs. But I was still very much in the kind of gaming and tech world. Oh, I guess I did not wake up to crypto at the time. The people
Hmm.
who were early who mined at that time, like they were the OGs. I did not click with crypto until about 2015 at the
Hmm.
like prodding of my friend Chris Bernisky. He said, you really got to look at this Bitcoin thing. And eventually I did. And that made sense. But yeah, mining was something I missed. And it seemed like a lot of fun at the time. I would have loved to gone back in time and like being involved.
Yeah, I've been involved for a very long time, but I jumped in and started mining, I think around in 2017, which was around the last time we had this good big wave of GPU miners out there.
Mm.
It was crazy. I remember so many stores having shortages of 1070 and 1080 NVIDIA graphics cards
Yeah.
because of people like me going out and buying all of them, and having shortages on all the parts and everything coming out of Taiwan, and the company trying to block mining on their graphics cards or lock the graphics cards, and they do all kinds of fancy things these days. But it was an issue for a while. It was definitely a craze.
Definitely. I remember like NVIDIA's like quarterly calls was just dominated by questions about like, where's the GPU demand coming from? Are you just selling to gamers? And just like, yeah, that caused a huge, kind of like a boom and bust cycle for NVIDIA stock. It was wild.
Yeah, it was definitely wild. I'm glad that it's not GPU based anymore, and everything has kind of gone towards ASICs just because of the strain it puts on the industry for gaming too, unfortunately. But anyways, let's talk about Amun. What is it exactly that you guys are doing and trying to accomplish?
Yes. So if you look at kind of the equity world, the biggest kind of instrument change for the last 30 years or so was the rise of this kind of structure called an ETF. You know, a lot of people like buying stocks individually, but most people don't. Most people just, to them, the the stock market is a mechanism or a means to help them achieve financial independence or retirement. Any pretty standard planning will have you put a portion of your retirement funds into the stock market, but you don't want to. Most people don't want to select whether they want to buy Apple or Facebook or Dropbox. They just want to have exposure and own a piece of the U.S. economy or the global economy, and that used to be very expensive to do or very complex to do, and you had to hire advisors and all this stuff. And then ETFs came around in the early 90s, and exchange traded funds basically wrapped a bunch of existing stocks into a single fund that is traded like a stock on an exchange. It has complete transparency, complete liquidity, and you can trade intraday. It was a fantastic wrapper. At the time, it wasn't clear at all it was going to be successful, and many people were betting against it. But over the last 30 years, the ETF industry has just exploded, and most people now own stuff via ETFs rather than trying to pick individual stocks. The S&P 500 was the first ETF to launch in '93 and is still probably the most widely owned ETF, and it has really like helped probably maybe tens plus millions of people just get exposure to the market without having to worry about the underlying of what do I own? Do I have to sell this, buy that, and all this stuff? So it's kind of with that lens that we look at the crypto industry today. Crypto is a very, very young industry right now, and people involved are passionate early adopters, and they love picking different coins and betting on different kind of cycles and different chains. But over time, as crypto reaches mainstream, people are going to want more automated ways to own and invest in this space and in this asset class. And the kind of like wrapped structure, like an ETF, makes as much sense here as it does in the traditional stock industry. So our goal is basically to build basket-based or like index-based like products so that you can buy a single token and get exposure to a variety of underlying tokens. So instead of ETFs tracking stocks, it's like index tokens tracking other tokens, and so basically with one instrument you can get the broad exposure you need. And what's wonderful about crypto is kind of the core ethos with crypto is self-custody and self-sovereignty and control. So when you buy a SPY or a QQQ or pick your favorite ETF, that ETF is held for you by a third party like Robinhood, and you can't really get access to the underlying of those units of shares. But with crypto, all that is completely with you, for better or for worse. So if you buy one of our index tokens, say DFI, the token is held in your wallet. No one else holds it. No one else can take it from you. And you truly own the underlying tokens in that index token. So DFI is our Ethereum index token. It tracks the top 8 DeFi protocols. It doesn't just track, it holds the top 8. So if you have these tokens, yes, you hold our token, but if at any moment you want the underlying tokens, you can claim the underlying by exchanging the token for the underlying. And that's all possible because crypto is built on top of these very composable primitives in DeFi.
Yeah, who decides what makes up the underlying assets in that index token? Is that decided by the community? Do you guys have a system for that, or how is that curated?
Yeah, so the initial construction or the methodology is something we propose. And in the beginning, it's just us as kind of like the product authors. So we build some, I guess we have the primary input on methodology. But more recently, kind of we have started sharing methodology even before the product is complete. So it's very easy to kind of get input on that. But initially, it's a pretty simple kind of methodology, either market cap weight or adjusted by liquidity. And it's basically selecting for the largest projects in a particular space. And you can set the number of constituents. You can set kind of like thematically what you want to cover, whether it's like one chain or another, or NFT or DeFi. And then based on those construction rules, the product is built. So index construction is quite similar to kind of like ETF construction. It's rules based, and then it rebalances based on those rules automatically in the future.
You guys also market this automated portfolio. How does that work exactly? Does it like pick things for you if you're an investor that doesn't know what to invest in, or what's the scheme like?
Yeah, there's no automated portfolio product separately. By that we just mean this is
Okay.
this is kind of like the feature of each of the index tokens. So if you buy the index token, today it may have 4 tokens of a certain kind. Over time, as more projects enter the space, it will get selected out like basically rule based and get added to the token. So our Polygon index token, for example, Pico, started off with 5 projects, and today it's rebalanced. It has 4, and one of the new ones got added was called Gains Network, which is kind of this leveraged trading platform on Polygon with very low fees, and that got added because they grew and the Polygon ecosystem developed. So, to the extent that the kind of the coverage area of a token increases over time, it might start with 5, it might end with 10 tokens. And all that is automated for you. So you don't have to keep track of what is the latest project. You need to buy it, you need to sell it. All that is done kind of in an automated and rule-based fashion.
What's some of the applied risk investing in a index token instead of just investing in the token itself?
When you invest in a token itself, your risk exposure is pure to that token and to that project. So the primary decision making you have to make as an individual is allocations, like how much you allocate to this token, and that by itself is it can be pretty complicated. So when you invest in an index token, the diversification is automatic. So the index token itself will have 6, 8 different things underneath. It may hold 1 to 12 to 15% of a given token, and that will rebalance automatically. So if it moons one month, then chances are to get rebalanced to a lower percentage the next month. So it would take profits automatically for you for equal weight products. So it decreases the risk from a kind of like a concentration perspective, and I think overall you're less likely to be held like hostage to a single outcome. It does increase another form of risk, which is because we are wrapping all of these tokens into a new product, and this method is using basically a smart contract, right? You are basically buying. You now have exposure to kind of like what we've built. So every layer in DeFi adds a new layer of kind of risk, and the more the more projects you're involved with, like the more projects a given product is built on top of, the more it basically subsumes all the technical risk of the underlying. In other words, basically, if we do our jobs well, then it's okay. If we have bugs, of course, that will increase risk. Our products are audited before they are released. So there are many reputable firms in the crypto space, and all our tokens are basically code reviewed by these firms. And also, the longer they are in the public, generally speaking, the stronger their security posture is, because people have been testing and trying to exploit these. So we use some pretty well-known code bases, and I think we do a pretty good job on that front. But in crypto in general, when you buy into a particular project's tokens, you do take on the risk of that particular project.
Is an index token regulated any differently than a normal token that you might invest in? Have you come across anything doing that?
It is not clear. The regulatory landscape is very ill. Like, regulators are still kind of getting are still haven't really put out extremely well, like, clear definition for regular tokens. Index tokens are kind of like more of the same, with some characteristics of it is putting things together. It's more like a structured product. So we're generally being conservative and not claiming them to be like investment funds or anything like that. But our general philosophy is to keep them as decentralized as possible. So we do not appear as a money manager to a regulator, which we're certainly not. Like, one way you can assess that is if our entity, if our group working on this were to disappear for whatever reason, it's just vanished off the face of the earth, what would happen to these index tokens? If you invest in a hedge fund and the hedge fund disappears, then your money is gone, right? But if you invest in these tokens and we disappear, you fully hold and custody these assets. So you can simply choose to burn them for the underlying, and you would have the underlying. And if you don't, the tokens would actually live on, because it's automatically rebalanced using rule-based logic on on top of the blockchain. Even if our dev team is all in a coma, come next month, it would rebalance and include new tokens as they appear, because the contract is working directly with the decentralized exchanges and just using them to buy and sell assets. So the hallmark of a really great decentralized protocol is it can work even if the devs go to sleep, and that's I think the level that we hit and we aim to hit.
That was really interesting. Have you guys thought about slowly moving into tokenized equities at some point and doing something similar, or is this better fit for cryptos just in general?
I think for the time being, crypto, I think step one is to get crypto really working. Tokenized equities, the second you start touching TradFi rails, you have all the regulatory issues you have to deal with. And we may cross those bridges one day. But right now, I think the key is to get some initial traction and to get people comfortable owning like index tokens on DeFi and see the benefit of that. And then in the long term, I think there are some very interesting opportunities to kind of cross over with traditional equities.
We have a couple of community questions, if you don't mind, as well. Someone's
Sure.
asking if you have like an index token, and in that index there are stakeable assets. Do you guys stake those assets? And if so, do those get redistributed? Do they get restaked? How do those get factored into the index token?
Yeah, so we consider staking assets. The issue with staking assets is that we would need to kind of custom implement each stakeable asset, especially like these, assuming single-sided staking is available. So as a rule, we don't stake assets inside of the token, inside of the index product. What we will do is, when it makes sense, we will include already staked versions of those tokens. So, for example, Solana right now is just a base L1 token. For our Solana product, we don't actually use Sol as the representation for Solana. We use MSOL, or the Marinade Sol token, and MSOL is the staked version of Solana. And that kind of automatically yields a 6% APY yield for that token. We do that for this particular case because MSOL is a liquid token in its own right. So MSOL is like a pair you can swap, and MSOL is a thing we can buy automatically on Radium. So when there is a liquid representation of the stake token, we will do it. But if it requires custom one-sided integration with like a staking contract, we tend not to, because it kind of basically creates kind of an infinite series of like one-off work.
Gotcha. What about any kind of like fees associated? Is there like a management fee or an execution buy or sell fee?
Yeah, the fee is generally between 1% and 1.5%. We are not charging fees right now yet. We plan to start charging fees at the end of the year. But right now it's basically fee free. But the standard fee is going to be around 1 to 1.5%.
Gotcha. It says your products are focused on the Polygon, Solana, and DeFi index tokens and ecosystems. Are you guys planning to spread out to other ecosystems at some point? Or do you just want to focus on those? I know that covers a lot of assets anyways.
Yes. So the philosophy we've taken is to help people invest in the major blockchain ecosystems that's available right now. We started on Ethereum, moved to Polygon, and recently Solana. We are definitely considering other chains. We're considering AVAX and other EVM-based chains. But the answer is basically yes. And we're looking for ideas on like what are interesting and worthwhile index products to build, because there's a lot of different ways to cut up the kind of the crypto ecosystem. So if you have great ideas, please share it with us. We're currently considering, I would say, AVAX, Chronos, and kind of like the Cosmos ecosystem as destinations where potentially it would be worth building some products.
Here's a potentially great idea. Are you guys, have you thought about creating some kind of index token that could represent these NFT collections that are out there that fluctuate kind of in popularity and in transaction volume? Is there a way to tokenize that and put that into an index, make that more tradable?
It's possible. It's NFTs are trickier by definition because they're non-fungible, and once they're non-fungible, they're kind of more illiquid. There's been a few attempts to do that, but I don't think any has done super duper well. I think maybe with NFTs as they grow, once the volume and value amount I think reaches a certain threshold, I think that could be very interesting. But yeah, we get asked that a lot. I think it's one of the very. It seems like people would very much appreciate that, given how expensive some of these NFTs have become.
Yeah, like for example, Bored Ape Yacht Club, they launched a token recently, and the token's actually done really well and it's taken off, and that represents their entire collection. It'd be interesting if you could take those tokens that represent those collections and put those into an index at some point. That seems fairly possible, right?
Possibly. I think also, but in this case, I think it also shows that maybe it's a bit difficult for a third party to be in the best position to do it. Like if you wanted exposure to apes right now, you probably just buy the ape token. Like for a third party NFT mechanism that can then lock in some of these NFTs and then mint tokens, it seems like it would be at a structural disadvantage versus the native team project.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, there's so many niches within NFTs. I feel like it could be possible at some point for virtual land to art to gaming. I don't know. Maybe there's a way to do that at some point. It's so difficult to invest and figure out what to invest in that space.
Yeah, definitely. It seems like in the end, every like it would almost reflect the real world economy. Like if you don't want to reinvest in real estate by buying a single condo, you can buy some REITs. It feels like eventually you want to buy a REIT of metaverse land in Sandbox or something.
I think it might simplify it for people at some point, given how much value is being locked up in NFTs. If someone wants to get started with Amun and start using it, what does that process look like? How does someone get set up? How does someone start?
Yeah, it is as easy as using any DeFi protocol, really. So if you have a MetaMask or a Phantom wallet for Solana set up, just head over to our website, amun.com. And yeah, all the products are listed there. It's a few clicks to do a swap. On our website, the swaps are supported by the standard exchanges, whether it's Uniswap, Radium, or QuickSwap on the back end. You can also use those DEXs directly to buy our tokens, but I would head to the website first just to check out what's available and to see what the tokens are like.
Got it. What's you guys' roadmap look like for the rest of the year? What are some things you want people to keep in mind or watch out for that you're excited about or think would be a cool addition to Amun or a new index token? Um, Anything in particular?
The roadmap, I'd say, we are looking into AVAX and Cosmos right now to see what
Hmm.
makes sense to build. We have announced that we would like to build a cross L1 index token. So right now, like all the tokens are focused on specific blockchains and the apps built on top of them. So they're kind of like vertical in nature. I think it would have great wide appeal if we build something that's across all the L1 blockchains. Because kind of the first question you get from someone investing in crypto is like, which token should I buy? Which chain is going to win? Is Ethereum going to remain the winner? Is Solana going to take over? Is one of these new sharded chains gonna gain market share? It's very confusing, and it's like betting on horses or betting on startups. And the traditional way you've dealt with that is to kind of like have a diversified way of investing in all of them. But right now, there's no token that includes like multiple blockchains in a single wrapped unit. It's hard to do because by definition they're on different blockchains. So we're looking at technical implementations to do that. If you're interested or have ideas on how to do that, we'd love to hear from you. But yeah, like I think the key thing to solve for in the coming couple of, like I guess this year is a a token that can be as impactful for crypto as kind of SPY has been for traditional equities. And that's, I think, something that can wrap economic activity across all the L1s right now.
Where can you find Amun online on social media? And then if people want to chat or have ideas, do you guys have a community like Discord or Telegram?
Of course, yeah. AMUN. Amun is on Twitter. It is on your browser, amun.com. We have links there to Discord, to Telegram, whatever your favorite means of reaching out.
What about you? Are you on social media?
I am. It's a bit hard to write. It's Dracomino, but you can look up James hiring. I have like hiring on in brackets.
We'll find you.
For my
Well,
Twitter.
the internal
Yeah,
BlockHash podcast team will do their investigation and find James.
totally. I mean, like I write hiring the name because we're definitely hiring. We're looking for great content people. We're
Hmm.
looking for great marketers. So if you're interested in working in this space, please reach out.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll put a bunch of links in the description below the episode so that they can easily get to that stuff. Guys, go follow James. Go check out Amun, like the video, and subscribe. And James, thank you for taking the time to come on today, explain what you guys are doing with Amun, with index tokens, which I think are really cool and unique, and I think bring a whole different element to the table for investing and for people that want to get in the space. So, thank you for sharing all of that. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you, Brandon. Nice chatting to you.
Nice chatting with you as well. Talk soon. Stay safe.